Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and today we're going to talk about I'm going to just show you some interesting ways to use destructuring with functions, just because some languages, I think like Swift and Kotlin they let you return like multiple values. So if you wanted to return more than one value from a function, you could. In JavaScript, you can only return one value. Well, that's easy enough to fix. You can return multiple values in an object or multiple values in an array, so it's not a hard thing to get around. But you end up with something like this. So let's say I create a function, const my func, and equals. Okay, and then we're just going to say that we're going to keep this real simple. I wanted to return the numbers 4 and 5. Okay, I can't do this. This I can't do. For some reason, it'll just return 5. But what I can do is I can return 4 and 5. But let's say, my intention isn't to have these numbers in an array. I want these to have their own separate variables. So without what I'm going to talk about, basically you'd have to do something like this. So you'd have to be like, okay, const numArray equals my func. That'll create the array and send it into numArray. And then I have to be like const for equals numArray1, numArray0 actually, and const 5 equals numArray1. And now if I console log those, console.log those, I can just do 4 and 5, and now they're freestanding variables. Oh, wrong command. Node function. Yes. Let's see. 4 and 5. Let's see. That's like a lot of steps. Okay. So wouldn't it be nice if I could reduce that? Well, that's where destructuring gets involved. Destructuring is a nice way of being able to take numbers out of objects or arrays in a very nice, simple syntax. So what I could have done, we'll simplify it by 2 lines first. So destructuring allows you to just do this. So instead I could create an array with my variables for 5 and say equal numArray. And basically what that's doing, it's taking the first variable in the array, assigning it to 4, and then the second variable and assigning it to 5. So now if I console log 4 and 5, not 4 and 5, console log 4 and 5. There it goes. 4 and 5 are still, once again, 2 freestanding variables. But I can simplify it even further, because I still have to create this extra array. That's an extra step I don't want to have to create. So what I can do is I can just destructure what the array returns. So what I do is I would just replace this with this. Oh, nope, not that. There we go. Now this numArray doesn't even need to exist, because it'll just take this array that this function returns, assign the first value to 4, assign the second value to 5. And if this looks familiar from like a lot of React hooks, then, well, this is how it works. Okay? So basically this function returns an array, and then we just destructure the array right out of the box. And now, still 4, 5. But you've just trimmed it down quite a few lines of code. Okay, and it looks a lot more simpler, especially if you know what the function returns. And you can do this. Destructuring doesn't just work with arrays. It also works with objects. So let's say I did this. Okay, I had a function that says, it queries a database and gives me back the name of a student. So name, we'll just use my name. We'll use my age, 34. Okay, return Alex, age 34. So it returns this object. And again, I want to destructure that. I can just destructure that out of the gate. But instead I use curly brackets and the name of the properties. Name, age. Or I can just be proper and change this to lowercase. There we go. Okay, and then it basically just makes those two freestanding variables. So I can go name, age. Oop, what did I do wrong here? Alex is not defined. Oh, that's right, that's a string. Boop. Save. There we go. Alex 34. So see, now basically what happens, it goes and looks in the array, looks for a property with the name Alex, grabs the value, stores it in the variable. Looks for a property with the same name as age, 34. Now, here's the thing. What if I'm doing a search for many students? So I can't keep storing the student's name in a variable called name because there might be many students. So what I could do, if I wanted to, is I can do this. I can put a colon here, and I can actually change the name of the variable. So this becomes like name Alex, and this becomes age Alex. So now, if I were the console, name Alex, age Alex, it should still work. Okie dokie, save. See, it still works because you're allowed to rename the variables. So I need the property so I can destructure it. So that's how it knows what to grab from the object that this function returns. And that works. And again, it's just because this is an object. So I could do this with any object. That doesn't have to be an object that the function returns. This just is nice to use when a function does return an object or an array to be able to grab those values and put them into separate variables, which means less typing because you're not typing, name, object.name, object.age. You're not typing in array index 0, array index 1. You're just putting them in variables that are named what they are and just using them. And also it's just a pretty look. Look at that. That's just a pretty line of code. Okay. And this allows you to kind of squeeze some more out of your functions. I mean, that's basically what's happening with like a React, like the React useState call. Okay. So essentially what's happening is that under the hood, when you use useState, so you usually have to do some sort of function like this, where basically this is your state, and then this is your setState function. Okay, and then you're using this useState function to create it. Essentially, this function is returning an array where the first variable is your state, and the second state is the second variable in the array is a function that allows you to set that state. That's it. And then you're just destructuring it to get those in your variables. Okay? You don't even have to technically do this. If you want to, you could actually just sit there and be like, my state array, and put it in an array and use it from an array, but that's just really clunky. That's why we destructure it. Okay? So when you use a syntax, you're like, okay, this just magically works. But it's because you're using destructuring, and destructuring really helps create some very elegant patterns that make life a lot easier for using sort of more complex stuff. So hopefully you found that useful. I certainly think this is a neat thing. There's more stuff you can do, but I'm going to keep it at that for this video. So have a great one. Enjoy.